Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Prairie Banana. We're over here on PulseChain, and we're going to be talking about pTGC and UFO, index tokens of PulseChain. The index tokens that are quite literally the first of their kind type of index tokens. And they're an index of the best assets over here on PulseChain, the Richard Hart tickers and other tickers. Not just those, but other ones. And what we do is we stream, like I've got my phone right here, and we're going to stream a Twitter space through this mic to YouTube. So people can comment in the comment section down below. I'm getting it all mixed up, I'm sure. And then people on Twitter, you know, if you want to come up, you go to Twitter and talk. But if you want to just type, which would be me, I'm a typer, not a talker. Then I'd be on YouTube. So that is what we do. So as soon as the founder, he'll be on. As soon as the founder, I'm not a founder. As soon as he jumps in, we'll get it going. Hi, Kurt. You guys always say like you're on X, and I've tried to figure this out. You're like, hey, I retweeted this, and then if I say something in here, I don't think you guys can see it on X. But if you could let me know. I mean, otherwise, we'll just skip it. I'll figure it out later. How many people are on YouTube? 4. It's a 4 and 4, guys. We always end up with more on Twitter. And Zen is always on time. So if he's a little late, he gets a pass. Zen gets a pass. Imagine that. Probably what I need to do is back out. Hi, Josh. Josh T, I've seen you around, dude. Make sure I got to check messages. Usually I'm the one that's late. I have more to set up. That's my excuse. Right? I got a question. I got a question on Telegram. Ron, are you here? Do you recommend to invest in pTGC right now, assuming we could be going into a bear market, or go with the PulseChain core tokens? Woo! That is a great question. I'm going to mark that as unread because I do not want to miss that question, even though it's in a private Telegram chat. We're live now. I got to turn the volume up. Good evening.
What's up, Banana?
Yeah, another day. I've had my supper. I bet you haven't had your supper yet, huh?
I'm eating it right now.
We're in different time zones. That's so funny because it's like it's like a shift change. All right, I'm done. Your turn. Because I'm an hour ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm literally mid bowl of soup right now.
Ooh. Nice. Man, busy day. I want to talk to you about like, I want to hit the highlights in a video about UFO, kind of like I've done with pTGC.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to hit just skim the surface, I want to whet the appetite though of the viewer. So I'm going to mention, and I haven't written everything down, but I figured we could talk about it before I go and create this video. But I'm going to talk about its extra thick liquidity with RH tickers, its bonding with pTGC, and it even has more LP than pTGC. I might try to, frame that kindly to where it's, you can say a thing without like emphasizing it. And
yeah, I don't even think it needs to be specifically compared to pTGC.
There you go.
When I look at UFO and pTGC, I'm comparing them against a lot of the top assets on other blockchains, right? It feels like a lot of times we're constantly comparing the two things against each other, or even assets on chain. But really, there's so much more to the crypto market than just the assets that exist on PulseChain. And how do these compare against some of the large assets that exist, even on other blockchains? I think the liquidity and the fact that $5 million or $6 million of liquidity is constantly working is definitely one of the highlights. If you look at the market cap of UFO, I would say liquidity to the market cap, it's probably the best on chain, or the highest on chain would be my guess.
Okay. Run that by me again. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I got a phone call, so I think I might have cut out. That UFO's liquidity to market cap ratio is probably one of the highest on chain. Probably one of the best in crypto in general. The liquidity web is stout, with it, the majority of it being with Richard tickers. The buy and burn that happens in every transaction.
Yep.
And maybe even bring up that it's buying and burning pTGC at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, today's a great example. A lot of arbitrage opportunity happening within the web. Not a lot, but more than normal. So
it's deflationary.
there's around 7.
Has the same AM technology that pTGC has.
Yep, same bot technology.
Yeah.
Built-in APY.
Yep. No overhead.
No overhead. You know, I think that's enough highlights right there. You know,
Yeah.
those are all pretty desirable features.
Oh yeah. I'm going to try to keep it simple for no coiners. You know, that's kind of the idea. So I just have to do that on purpose. You know, I have to make an effort to do that.
Well, and I think our goal is for most of these videos for them to be like 3 minutes or so, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you covered all of that, I believe that would probably take up to 3 minutes, pretty much.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
And then we're talking about the bot video, you know, on a great data showcase. Those, I think we should probably do a separate one for pTGC and a separate one for UFO, showcasing the specific liquidity web on that day, and just an example. You know what I mean? We can pull up the token and kind of just look at the liquidity pairs, or, you know, a specific transaction or something like that. But pretty much the same video, just switching the ticker in the video. So that would be 2 videos right there. Almost the exact same script.
Okay, I'll jot those down. I'm working on them in order of priority. Just what I think is the priority, you know. So, but if you got any input, absolutely, you know, by all means, let me know. I have a question. It's in my Telegram. This is an interesting question. This gentleman says, "Do you recommend to invest in pTGC right now, assuming we could be going into a bear market, or go with the PulseChain core tokens?" That's a tough one. I'll give my answer. I've never, since I discovered pTGC, I haven't been very interested in core tokens. I hold some as a moon bag, but I aped everything into pTGC, and I'd still do the same today.
I was going to say, why is it a tough one? It's not that tough to me.
Sure. Well, you know, considering where we are in the cycle potentially, and I don't think we are, but some people, there's another question in the chat today. Past couple of days been pretty tough on PulseChain, yes. But I think that there's a lot of.
I would look at like the bear market on PulseChain. Like, the chart has been trending downwards for 2 years straight. I think that and pTGC has performed better than holding the core.
Yeah.
Zen, you're kind of wrecked a little bit, man. I don't know if you can get to a better spot.
Yeah, maybe I'll go upstairs.
It's bad enough to where you should try to get adjusted if you can. Well, Perry, I agree with you on that question. I think that's an important question. But I think that the first premise of the question is, okay, if we're headed into a bear market, that's the first question, right? Should I do this or have the cores? Well,
yeah. I don't think anything changes.
Well, no, it's just important to note that what do you think the cores are immune to a bear market?
Right. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Number one, obviously they're not. Number two, what's made people a ton of money on PulseChain? What's literally made hundreds of X's for people on PulseChain? Well, it's just going down. What's proven to be the better crypto, the better asset? The dumb pipe, the DEX token, the inflation to pay LP providers token, or the Grays? It's unequivocally not even a question. It's a fact that the Grays currency has massively outperformed the ecosystem tokens.
Yeah.
So
yep,
to me, I would have to answer the question, 100% the Grays currency. Now, if the cores go up, our entire liquidity web is filled with millions of dollars of the cores.
Mm-hmm.
So if by some God-given scenario the cores go up in a bear market, we know how pTGC reacts to cores going up.
Oh yeah, it's undeniable. It's very exciting, honestly. And we haven't seen hardly anything on PulseChain yet. And pTGC goes bananas whenever any of those core assets start moving.
Can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Yeah, I moved around in the house. Yeah, I was just going to say that for me, it kind of has felt like we've been in a bear market on PulseChain. And we can kind of see, let's even look at the last year. I think in the last year, pTGC is up a tiny bit, but PulseChain's down like 40% right now from this exact time last year.
Yeah.
And we've been able to buy and burn a lot of supply. We've been able to add LP. We've been able to distribute our supply, just like PulseChain. I think PulseChain has covered a lot of ground in distributing their supply as well. But the question of if we're going into the bear market and what should you do, I think you could just look at the past, because I feel like the past has been a bear market for PulseChain.
Yeah, and like Mando just brought up, has anything changed? I mean, are we running to the cores?
I'm sorry. Prairie, let's look at it like this, right? Let's look at it like this. I remember when pTGC was 100,000 market cap. I remember when it was a $500,000 market cap. It sat for a while under $1 million market cap. Anybody could have bought it for a while under $1 million market cap. It is currently a $55 million market cap. Okay? So if you do, or let's just put it there, 55 million, and you divide it by, let's even go just to 500,000, and that's 110x. Did you get 110x on any of the cores? Now, it's 110x currently. It's actually more than that. It's actually a lot more than that, because that difference between 100 and 500 is a lot when you start multiplying it out. But just to give you some conservatism, the bottom line is we're on a triple bottom of PulseChain down here. It's sitting at a $55 million market cap with almost 13% of the supply gone. It's bought out a ton of holders. And so when Zen says, yeah, I feel like we've been in a bear market, PulseChain's just been toasted. But pTGC is not in a bear market.
Yeah.
If you got into pTGC early and you're a holder and you've been a long-term holder, you crushed it.
Absolutely.
So let's just throw that reality out there. I mean, that's just the reality. You're up. If you put $50,000 in it, if you put $1,000 in, at a $500,000 market cap, if you put $1,000 in, right?
Yeah, man.
That's now $110,000.
Mm-hmm.
And people, So yeah, the answer is pTGC is by far one of the best performing assets ever to hit the PulseChain blockchain.
Or any blockchain for that matter.
And yeah, you're way better off, as per the numbers, buying the performer on the chain.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No matter what comes next in the market.
If the cores go on to do their own 110x, what do you think happens to the liquidity pools that the Grace Currencies ecosystem owns? They explode in value.
Yeah. And that means more eyeballs on our ecosystem.
Well, that means more revenue generation.
Oh,
that
yeah,
means
man.
a much thicker liquidity pool. That means that our liquidity goes from what it is now to just an astronomical amount of liquidity. That means that more money has to be moved to fix pools. That means that there's more tokens that are going to be burned out of existence. The thing's just a machine. And the fact that it's sitting here at a $55 million market cap, and PulseChain's literally done, PulseChain actually, Zen, if you think about it, PulseChain has actually dragged pTGC down by probably a factor of like, what, 4?
When pTGC launched, I believe PulseChain was around half a SAC price, and we're currently, probably another 30% down from that, 50% down from that.
Yeah, but if we give it, let's just get it back to SAC because it's been up there twice. We're down a factor of 4.
Mm-hmm.
You could say 2, you could say 3. I'm just saying that it's even worse than we've been in a bear market. The actual chain itself and the core assets have actually harmed the appreciating reality of the protocol. Being actually connected to the cores has actually harmed us to this point. When we asked about what should I buy,
I was, thinking about like from the day launch. Imagine, this isn't a great situation. I don't think this would have been the right decision either way. But if we were bonded with a stable coin at launch with the most of our liquidity instead of Pulse, this would have been better for our price for Hart's Law.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous considering how low we actually created LP, and the launch of pTGC was at half a SAC price. And even with UFO, I think UFO was a little bit higher even. I think it was 406 or something like that. And UFO's never even seen a PLS above sacrifice price in its whole existence of being around. And UFO went up to a 100 mil market cap at one point.
Yeah, that's even another metric, Prairie. That's crazy to think that, we would have been better off bonding with freaking stables.
Yeah.
Now, let's be real. Like, we have had pockets of phenomenal things within the web do amazing things. But we're just talking in general now, right? But that's the juice of this system, is that it gets to take advantage of all of these amazing moves on chain. But yeah, that's just an interesting reality, Zen.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a better decision to do that. I'm just saying, in just Hart's Law and reflexivity, we've been hurt being bonded to things going downwards. We've just been swimming up a down current, for a very long time. But I think the amount of revenue we've been able to generate off these assets, and the fact that we've been able to build up our liquidities and shove so much value into our own system at these low levels for 2 years now, is so overlooked. Every single day I'll look at how much we've generated just today in the last year, just between the two assets. And these numbers are daily at the bottoms of the chain, just every single day. And eventually all of this value that we've accumulated, if it's going to LP ads, if it's going to buy and burns, if it's going to reserves for buy and burns at strategic times or LP ads at strategic times, the value starts to add up when you're accumulating it at such low levels.
When it is starting to add up, I think. What's the value of the treasury now? Like 350,000 or something?
It's 10 billion Pulse, so it's only 300,000. But we just did a 7K buy and burn today, so that was another larger than a dolphin position bought and then taken off the market forever. pTGC has accumulated $3,780 just today, and UFO has accumulated, let's see real quick, $4,435. So pretty much $8,000 almost between the two assets at pretty much the bottom of PulseChain. And how I like to look at it is like, okay, well, that value is at the bottom. Like, all that value still means something. All that value is still here. What's that worth when there's a revaluation? All that hard work, all that buying and burning, all that LP adding, all that, rewarding at these bottoms, with PulseChain just flicking up 10x, that $8,000 that we did today actually has a valuation of $80,000.
Yep.
And it's been going on for 2 years. So that 80,000 of value, if you think PulseChain's true value should be 10x higher than here, starts to really add up. If you don't believe PulseChain's true value is higher than here or 10x, or maybe you think it's even higher than 10x, maybe you think the true value is 50x or 100x from here, and 100x is only 30x SAC price. So I don't even think 100x is unrealistic, but that means the $8,000 we accumulated just today is technically that value should be worth $800,000 in the future. That buy and burn of $7,000 that we just did today in pTGC, if PulseChain 100x's, the value of just that buy and burn is a $700,000 buy and burn just today.
Did you guys happen to notice the buy notifications coming into the Telegram for UFO today? There was a lot of transactions on UFO today. It really picked up the pace, and it even exceeded pTGC for a little bit for volume.
Yeah, the volume was higher for a little bit. One of our LP pairs put in some work today, pretty much. I don't know what's going on with the asset in that specific LP pair, but it was the SolidX pair, and a lot of the liquidity was pulled from that ecosystem. So now our liquidity was solid. Yeah, I don't know why. I assume maybe he's. Oh wow! Don't even you know what I mean? I don't even want to guess, but. Yeah, a lot of LP got pulled, so now we own pretty much like a third of all the SolidX liquidity. So,
are you shitting me, bro?
Yeah.
Wow.
I heard the same thing
later. But I don't know what's going on. I haven't researched it. I just saw a bunch of action happening there, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And then I noticed, pretty much the only decent sized LP pool they have now. I don't even call it decent because our LP with SolidX is relatively small. Now we make up like a third of their liquidity.
What is the size of our LP with SolidX? When you look,
38,000.
Yeah, the largest pairing is with Pulse
38,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there was $14,000 of volume in that pair.
You remember when they were looking at it from the vantage point of that cool web protocol structure thing that they built, where you could see it all?
Crispy's web.
Yeah.
That he had.
you can see all the bubbles. Like that's when it had like some of the most on-chain LP.
Yeah, one time I think there was like $5 million of liquidity in that ecosystem, but it seems like he's lost it. I don't follow it too much, so I don't really know. I don't know the exact reason. I'm sure he has reasons. Maybe he plans on pumping it. Maybe he's tired of people taking the liquidity and just leaving. Maybe he's afraid people are going to sell it to get at the sacrifice. I don't really know personally. But
I'm going to tell you, man. I love pTGC for that very reason, right there, though. You know, God bless him over there, but you know, knowing that the LP is in there and you can't pull it, Zen can't pull it, nobody can pull it.
Man,
it just lives on the blockchain, man, and it just keeps getting added to. Like tonight, you know, it got added to tonight, just constantly. Like I don't know, man. That's just better.
Every day gets added to. Even if we're not adding to it with the DAO, every single day we're adding value to that main PLS pair. You know, some days lower than others, but at these bottoms, it's really starting to add up. You know, just in the last, let's do month real quick. So in the last month, we've added $11,570 to that pair, the PLS pair. And then that's pretty much burnt in a smart contract.
Let's take a look at this real quick.
Where did you see that, Zen?
On a new site.
How much? How much did you say?
In the last 30 days, we've added $11,700 of liquidity to the PLS pair with the automatic function.
That's just the 0.5. Yeah. That's cool.
And that's at the bottom. You know what I mean? So we're adding LP at the bottom, you know, at really, really cheap PLS.
I see where you're looking at, where you found that. Very nice.
Yeah, we have the year too. So in the last year, I'll hold that number up because I think that number is fun too.
Nearly 500 grand in the last year.
Yeah, almost $500,000 in the last year. Liquidity added. All of that liquidity being added with Pulse below stack price. Pulse hasn't been above stack price in a month and a half at this point.
I don't think we understand really fully yet what that means. Woo! Put me on the floor.
Most tokens don't generate any revenue, and plenty of them have been very successful in a bull market. I look at pTGC that's been generating for the last 2 years thousands of dollars a day. Time PulseChain's the average.
Yeah, you're wrecked.
I would hit 404. I'm wrecked again.
Yeah, you kind of going in and out again.
Okay. Let me just try and get the thought out real quick.
Now. Yeah.
Okay. I put my phone closer to my face. What I was saying was, in the last 2 years, I'd say the probably average price for PulseChain is around 404. I think that's a pretty fair guess. Maybe 405, but let's say 404. Every single day, we've been generating thousands of dollars of value at that discounted price. It's starting to add up. You can feel it in the machine. It's bought out thousands of people. It's added thousands of dollars in LP. It's bought and burnt thousands of dollars of pTGC assets. I'm very excited for PulseChain to remotely have a flicker of demand on it and to see what that does for pTGC. But even though I'm excited for that, I'm also excited for it to sit down here a little bit longer and us to just keep onboarding new users at this low price. The larger we can make our community with a more diversified group of other blockchains, PulseChain community members, and in real life people, when a flicker of demand comes in, it's going to make pTGC different than pretty much every asset that exists. Not because it's a machine, not because it's trustless, not because of the $1 million of burnt liquidity, but because of the community being so diversified as well.
Yep. Which is why we are
up with only crypto grows from that single blockchain.
And that's why we're looking for people that aren't on Twitter, that aren't on Telegram. We're trying to reach out to them through YouTube, or, I'm through YouTube. That's just where my head is. But in real life, friends, family, coworkers, trying to bring in those people, like 2 people that I brought in that they just hold the asset. They're not interested in looking at the charts all day. And those are the best kind of holders. They're not going to trade.
Yeah, and they're also, not exposed to a bunch of different assets. They're not looking to do a quick flip.
Yep.
They actually believe in this being a great product long term. And when the asset starts to perform well, when they enjoy a great experience with this asset, they know other people that are no coiners. And pTGC, unlike most assets that do exist on chain, is actually worth telling in real life people about.
Yep.
Most people don't even want to mention what tokens are in their portfolio. They'd probably be embarrassed.
Yep.
But I feel like pTGC, because of it having so many features that is sustainable and trustless and the burnt liquidity, it is a product that I feel like people do feel comfortable with to talk to their family member about or their friend about. And that's another thing that just sets us apart, is the fact that people do feel confident in this being, a great opportunity, and that we can actually expand not only in crypto Twitter, but outside crypto Twitter, even if that's like in real life phone calls or conversations.
Yeah. I know when I came into the Hex community, every conversation was way over my head, man. And I had to digest literally hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of content on YouTube just to get some level of understanding of what's going on over here in DeFi. And what we are doing with this website build is we're making it just very simple and vanilla. So, step by step, so that people can bring their friends or family over, and maybe with a little bit of guidance, but literally if they're willing to pause a video, step by step through how all the different processes for how to get into these assets. Would you agree?
100%. I think one thing that also is nice is it's all in one spot, right? I think one of the most dangerous things about this space is to gather the information needed is you have to hunt down so many different resources from so many different destinations. Like, you have to hop in Telegrams. Telegrams for newbies is extremely risky.
I almost got wrecked, dude.
I don't even think in real life onboard should be given a Telegram.
Yeah.
Personally. It's just too risky of a place for people who don't understand the environment. Twitter is pretty close up there as well. A little bit safer, but I would also say pretty risky. But YouTube, they could be searching through hundreds of videos to find a decent one. So I think that, the fact that we'll have a good group of videos there to educate them on pTGC and also show them how to use, bridges on PulseChain and DEXs on PulseChain, and also the pTGC DApp is going to be a great tool for onboarding, not only for pTGC, but also for people just onboarding the PulseChain in general.
Yes.
And they want a good link to help users at least get from A to B, fiat to PulseChain. And then maybe they go a step further and go to C, which would be pTGC.
Right. A new user coming into Telegram, asking a newbie what is clearly a newbie question, and they will get scammers in their DMs right away. And that if they don't have any idea, who they're talking with, they're going to get wrecked big time. It almost happened to me when I came into Hex. But my radar went up when they asked for my seed phrase, because I knew that. And I was like, what? Hold on. No, you ain't getting my seed phrase, dude. But they could pull a fast one and a less clear one, like, oh, just connect to this website. So.
Yep, and it could look exactly like the website we have, just a different URL.
Yep, there's nobody can stop them from building something just like, the one we have. That's true. So I love it. I love the idea of bringing people in and not getting them into and keeping them away from Telegram and Twitter.
Ando, I had a question for you. Did you see Richard's latest tweet?
The one with the smiley face?
It's not a smiley face. There's the smiley face one that was like a few hours ago, and then he just did another one like probably an hour ago, 30 minutes ago.
Let's go there.
Mercus says he has onboarded a total of 7 people.
Thought experiment. Someone tries to sell you something that trades at $1 for $1, but he wants to sell 10 million of them. Okay, well, you'd want a good deal if you were to buy 10 million of something instead of 1, I bet. Yeah, OTC. Then you check the market. You see that if you had to resell the thing, you'd only get 2.4 million for the 10 million of the thing. This is freaking hilarious, Zen, for reasons that I will not talk about, but we did talk about last night. In that case, it seems like it'd be fair to pay about 2.5 million for the 10 million things and not the 10 million. Why would you pay someone more for something they'd sell to you for less? How do you value something people want to sell you more of than you want, and you can't possibly sell as much as they want to sell you? Yeah, why don't you tell me your thoughts real quick on that?
So one thing that ran through my mind is he thinking about including other assets in the sacrifice and then how to value those assets? So obviously, like, someone could send $10 million of an asset that only has 500K of liquidity, right? So you can't give them $10 million of credit just because that's what those tokens are worth. It's only worth as much as you can get for them in the existing liquidity pools. So that was one thought, but that's not buying. That's just giving them credits for something. So then I also was thinking about, is he talking about his new protocol, not the sacrifice, but when you are OTCing using his protocol to someone maybe with illiquid assets or a very large dollar figure, what should the price be? Should the price be what it says it's worth by just counting up the tokens, or what it says it's worth if you tried to market dump that asset right then on the spot? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
There's no way that Richard can allow altcoins on this chain to be sacrificed for a thing outside of maybe 5 altcoins and be able to sell them into the pools without massive slippage. It's impossible because nothing has that much LP.
100%.
So there is no workaround for accepting in the sacrifice altcoins at a 1-to-1 ratio for ProveX. There's no way that can happen.
Yeah, the only way you could do it is literally just give them what even if multiple people sacrifice the same asset, and then the only way he could do that is say, okay, I got sacrificed in total this amount of money, and if I went to sell this on the market right now, this is how much I would get for it. So now I'm dividing up that amount of money amongst, everyone that sent it to me based on how much they sent to me.
So in fact, if he's asking the question, how can I make allowing altcoins on PulseChain work for a sacrifice? The most obvious answer is to not take them. And what that does is it forces whoever wants to sell out of their altcoin to sell into the cores that he does take, pump those cores, and sacrifice them. And he doesn't even have to deal with that shit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the only way to do it. I think it'd be way too much headache and way too much of a mess to take in alt tokens on the chain. There's probably only like 5 alt tokens on the chain that even have a significant amount of liquidity to even consider.
Okay, so let me talk about something different. It's a sideline to it, but it's another example of Richard you need to solve. I was on with one of the biggest people on the blockchain the other night for hours. And we went to SHIB. And what I mean by biggest, I mean like biggest. And we went to SHIB on ETH in Uniswap. And I said, let's take a look at the slippage for $1 million out into ETH. So if I wanted to sell $1 million of SHIB into ETH, it was a 0.5 slippage, right? So then we went to PulseChain and we looked, okay, what kind of slippage are we looking at to try to sell $1 million of PulseChain into ETH? 29% almost slippage. So it's the same kind of an issue. It's the same kind of a problem, right? If I want to sell a guy $1 million worth of PulseChain over the ETH bridge, if he wants to buy that from me, he has to essentially end up with $280,000 less when he goes to sell it to somebody else, right? The solution is always more liquidity.
Yeah.
You're like not talking into your phone.
Yeah. Okay. That's even interesting to think about for the cores, right? Like you just said, with $1 million, that's 29% slippage on PLS. I think you said. Well, $1 million is nothing. You know what I mean? So, what if someone sacrificed $10 million of PulseChain? Do you give them the true value of what that says on Pulsefolio, or do you give them the value if they sold that on the market right then and gave you ETH? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
If I'm Richard, I'm not. This is why I put it out there today. I mean, ultimately, what's the goal? You know, I mean, what's the goal?
Yeah, I think we'll get more of that information when the website comes out.
As soon as the website comes out, we're going to know. Yeah, we're going to know what he's trying to do. In my opinion,
we'll try to figure out what he's trying to do. Yeah, we'll have more information for sure.
Freaking dumpster over here.
Josh T asks on YouTube whether we're going to have an LP with ProveX. And I think it's pretty clear. It's a Richard Hart asset, but thankfully we have lots of time to think about it. You know, we can evaluate it.
Yeah, that's my main thing right now. I just don't have enough information. I really want to see what this sacrifice looks like. If there's huge amplifications and there's large sacrificing in, they're just getting to a better deal than a smaller sacrificer, most likely that means price is going to go down from the average sacrifice price.
I don't have any heartburn either
Very
way.
similar to Pulse.
So there may be one exception, but including Richard's sacrifices and every single sacrifice that's ever taken place on PulseChain, no one that ever sacrificed for anything on PulseChain got a good deal.
Yep. Which is one reason I don't mind if we I don't mind if we don't, and maybe snipe a deal after it crashes, after it corrects, after it launches, as most tokens do.
Yeah, I think it depends on the rules of the sacrifice. We'll have to look for it and make that decision when it comes. Mm-hmm. But one thing that we would benefit off of, this is the other side of just sacrificing and just taking at least a position in what that is at sacrifice, and then we could think about adding later at a cheaper price if it goes later.
Ratio
kind of like more of a DCA strategy.
Yep.
If it goes up, we got some. If it comes down, we have some dry powder to add more LP there.
Yeah.
But the fact that there probably is going to be great volatility and volume right at launch, and if Richard does bonded heavily RH tickers right off the start, it's likely a lot of community members won't as well if it's not in the farms, because they won't be getting additional APY for doing so. And usually standard liquidity providing does not make up for impermanent loss. So if we provide that liquidity in our specific pools, we could generate a lot of revenue off of that.
Yeah.
Mando.
It could be a situation like how we did it with
to me that's like chase PY. Sorry, I just had a phone call come in. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to me that's like chasing APY in Remember and then losing all your principal.
I understand that. I guess that is a possibility for sure if it tanks like Remember. I don't think it would fall that much personally, but I think it depends on the sacrifice style.
The issue with sacrifices, and if it looks anything like the Pulse and Pulse X sacrifices, to me it would be an absolute the hell to the no. That would just be me. Because if there's a TWAP with bonuses, I'm going to tell you right now, if this protocol brings in more than the liquidity forks that took in $60 million on chain between Liquid Loans and the other team, if this thing takes in more than $60 million, the overvaluation of it is just retarded, in my opinion, for the environment we're on PulseChain. And I made a post earlier about this exact protocol that he's now using, and it already exists in ZK P2P. And it's already integrated into all the other blockchains. They're doing currently, I believe, 4 million a month in volume. That's the whole thing. So you're not talking about ZK P2P on base, ETH, you're talking about ZK, you're talking about ProveX on PulseChain only.
So is there
It is a
from what you can tell.
long-term play, in my opinion. It is a long-term, it is a real, legitimate, awesome product and service that we absolutely need. It's going to be really, really awesome to have it and cool. But in the short term, it's just not bullish outside of a hype cycle.
Well, and we've seen just a short hype cycle is enough for us to pay ourselves completely back for, putting that in the liquidity pool. We got that in most, I think, like in 2 days. Well, with our first LP pairing.
Yeah, and number two, if that is the case, if you're even considering it, you need to stop burning those tokens.
Yeah, we could save some of the pTGC for LP as well.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, if it's even a consideration, right? Like, hold them off. And
if it was a consideration, I would need to actually know more information on it. So I think it's always a consideration until we have the proper information on it.
Yeah, my gut feelings then is that this is going to hit. This is going to be a pretty short squeeze. You're not going to have a big, long, drawn-out process on this one, and that the protocol is 100% done, in my opinion. So I think it's going to happen much faster, and I think that it's designed specifically to cause an energetic scenario on PulseChain. And I think that you're going to see probably stuff come through the bridge that is going after this sacrifice, right? So let's say, for example, this big entity starts bridging in ETH and starts swapping ETH for PulseChain and then sacrifices it. That kind of energy. So from one vantage point, people will be looking at prove X, but from another vantage point, other people are going to be looking at other things.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of events cause a lot of game theory and a lot of other ways to make money too.
Oh yeah. Big time.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for the website.
Me too, because that's going to tell us a lot, right?
Yeah. So question, since you've done a little bit of research on what it's almost a fork of, it sounds like, what's the difference between this? Because as Richard's saying, this is brand new and hasn't really been done before. Do you know what makes this a little bit different than the ZK P2P, if that's what it's called?
No, that's all I can speculate on at the moment. That's all I can put out there.
Like the information Richard's put out so far just looks directly like ZK peer-to-peer. Like, is that also an on-ramp to those blockchains? Like, you can get the crypto with your bank account through users kind of exchanging with the code being the escrow, pretty much.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can actually go to the site now, and you can see the actual site. It's been being passed around in the community already, right? And you can see the offering now. I posted the metrics on it, I think 2 days ago. But it's ZKP2P.xyz. ZKP2P. ZKP as in Paul, the number 2P as in Paul, .xyz. And when you go there, you can see the offering. You can read what it does. You can see how it works. You can play with it. You can click on Get Started. Right in the center, you can see paying using Venmo, using Cash App, using Revolut, using Zelle. It goes into different currencies. So there's an infrastructure, right, to it. And it's an on-ramp.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see if there's a different twist to Richards, because he definitely made it sound like what he's building has something different going on than what the rest of crypto has.
Yep. Like I said, what it is it's I love what it is. I love how it works. I love what it represents. I love it's needed for PulseChain. But you know me, Zen. I'm just a realistic dude. Like I'm just I'm not afraid to fud my own bags. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter to me, right? I'm just talking reality. Reality is that thing is generating about 4 million in revenue. It is growing. It is growing. As people are discovering it, it is being used more. But we're talking about the broader space versus just a PulseChain environment, and specific to PulseChain DApp. So, for me, that's just it's awesome. But that's why I'm saying, man, if you end up with more than the liquidity forks, which ended up those people that sacrificed for the liquidity forks on PulseChain just got obliterated. But obviously Richard has the ability, man, to put the token at whatever price he wants and leave it there. Like he could create a floor like he did with most. You can bet your ass that the OA is going to own 95% of the coins like he does everything else. Mm-hmm. That's just the MO. So, but yeah, my thing, man, I just wanted to see you could only sacrifice the cores. That's what I wanted to see, because that would just make any bigger players on PulseChain that already have cores, they would have to relinquish them, which means that's all sell pressure gone. Or you'd have to sell alts to buy them. That means pump cores, right? And then relinquish them. That's a good thing. But if you're doing ETH or BNB or stables, none of that pumps the ecosystem unless those are swapped into the cores. But in that situation, you're just hoping that happens.
Yeah, same situation we've been in.
Correct.
I like to see that, there's still building going on, and that, he cares about delivering more products to PulseChain. I think that's pretty cool.
100%.
Yeah.
I also think that doing another sack is just it's just ballsy, bro.
Yeah.
It just shows that he just could care less.
Yes. I hadn't heard it put that way before. That's perfect, man. He's ballsy for sure. Yeah, and he could care less, obviously. I love that. Richard's gonna do his thing, man.
Yeah, I think Richard's at a point just analyzing his new kind of style of things. And this far into this experiment, personally, I think Richard's at a point where money doesn't matter. Like, I think he just wants to just do something that he thinks could leave a mark on the world, and he's just trying to do what he can to do it. I don't really think he cares about really much else.
For sure. Glory is what he's after. And yeah, he's.
Well, the line prairie is, he just scammed everybody out of their money. He just takes I really don't think Richard gives a shit about money in the way people think that he does.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I dropped that video tweet from my pinned tweet on my X into the Jumbotron. So if anybody's cruising X and just happened upon this space and you want to know what pTGC and UFO are, You can click on that video and it'll give you some idea and perhaps whet your appetite for it.
Yeah, I think that video really turned out good, Banana. I like it.
Thank you.
You've been busting out the videos lately.
And most of them aren't even public yet.
All right, you're getting quicker at them, or are they taking a while still?
They still take, like the 2 that I created today, they took a better part of the day, several hours. It's just the way I got to do it, man. I'm yeah.
Once they're done, we got them done forever.
Pretty much. And I can go rebuild them pretty easily too. It's getting the outline built that takes a little bit of time, but then recording it. It's so funny. I get so nervous just recording here in my stinking office by myself. I'm like, dude, get over it, okay? Just do it. And then once I get it done, finally, then I just chop it up with my video editor.
Nervous about what, bro?
Yeah. I'm like, I just want to get it done like perfectly the first time.
It's just you and just like you and the Holy Spirit, bro. Like, what the heck's the matter with you?
I know I got a video editor too, and I'm like, oh man, but I've done it a few times. I'm getting more confident at it. I can take a stinking really choppy video, and with a video editor, make it look like it was just all done in one pass. It's amazing, man. So yeah, but they're fun. Well, who else? Does anybody have any comments about anything on PulseChain? PulseChain, Grace currencies?
I'll just say this lastly. I'll just say this. Personally, Zam, for me, I'm 100% cool with just letting it launch. This is just my personal strategy. Just letting it launch, have a little hype phase, and then let the market tell me what it actually is worth. Because what am I going to lose? It'll go up. It'll always come back down to magnets because that's just how the universe works. And those magnets will tell us what the valuation of it is. Let's say I miss out on a 3x. Okay, I missed a 3x. Get 3x's on meme coins like every day, bro. So, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. But I think it's good for the chain. I think it's creating excitement. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. Just another long-term leg
Revenue.
of pTGC to generate revenue for the rest of ever.
Oh yeah, man.
When Richard puts out these sustainable tokens that have buy and burn features and stuff like that, do they have tons of demand right off the bat? Maybe not, right? Like you're saying, but I do think it's another leg to the web that we can add in, which then makes another revenue source on specific days. It's going to move and do its thing just like all the other Richard tickers. And we get to generate revenue off of it while also increasing the liquidity backing the pTGC or UFO asset as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that $60 million came into the sacrifice. Let's say that 60 mil came in. The token generation happens. It's deployed at a certain price. If you're Richard, are you going to deploy it at a price where everybody's in these massive gains?
No.
I would assume he would do it in a somewhat similar way that he did with PulseChain and PulseX, where your dollar value amount was roughly, you got this amount of tokens or whatever for it. If he gives a huge amplification to bigger investors, and there's a lot of bigger investors, then as someone who's most likely not considering investing a crazy amount, now this opportunity becomes less enticing. Because, let's say we considered putting 20K in. And yes, if we did 20K, that would be a 40K LP. if we hold a decent chunk of the LP on chain of it, it might have a ton more, but whatever, we'll generate some revenue off of it. It doesn't cost us that much from the ecosystem. But if there's other players, let's say big players sacking $500,000, well, they're going to get some huge amplification possibly. And then if the product launches and if it launches with them up 2x because they received 2 times the amount of tokens, well, most likely they're just going to take their $500,000 back, right? And then just sit on house money, which will push price down. So if there's a massive amplification, I'm less interested, right? But if the amplification isn't that much to where when it comes out, they're not already up 2x, well, then it becomes more interesting. It's a better opportunity.
Well, let's say there's no application at all. Let's say it's just you sacrifice this, you get this. There's no bonuses whatsoever.
For
Richard Burgess lesson.
Yeah, for our ecosystem, I think it would be worth throwing a little bit in, not a crazy amount at all.
Right, but my question to you was, if there's no bonus, right? If there's no bonus, you're Richard. You're not doing a bonus. When you deploy the token in PulseX, when you deploy it, you have to set the first ratio, which sets the market cap. And you have to deploy the liquidity, right? Are you setting it at a rate that puts them in profit?
No.
Or are you setting it at a rate where it's basically right at the market value?
I would say right at the market value.
Exactly.
Or above it.
So at that point, you're going to have a speculation pump.
Correct.
Right.
Most likely.
And then you're going to have a dump back down to certain magnets. It will land higher than the initial, unless it was just a complete fugazi.
Yeah. If there's amplifications, I fall further. If there's no amplifications, I think it might find a solid floor at that going rate that everyone paid.
Yeah. So, yep. We just got to wait for that website to come out. Either way, Grace is obviously going to add the what is it, the 6th core token now, including EHEX, or 5th? Yeah, it'll be the 6th core token, or if you consider EHEX a core token. But it's interesting, man. I'm looking at Grays, and I'm looking at a lot of the other things on Pulse that I've seen a lot of other people sell Grays into over the last 2 years. On little hype. This is the next pTGC. This is the next. Every one of them is wrecked, bro. And Grays is just chilling here. It's pretty crazy. PulseChain.
Yeah, I'd say. Yep.
Crazy environment now.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting how set up we are. I made a post about this morning, how set up pTGC is to make it in the top 50, top 30 of all of crypto if PulseChain is remotely successful.
Well, the other thing too is when you look at the price, if you go to the daily or the weekly, the people that have a good amount of tokens, they're respecting the levels. It's obvious. They're respecting the chart.
Yeah, I would just say that if they didn't, that's the cool thing about being a product that's out for 2 years, is they wouldn't have any more tokens if they didn't care about respecting the chart. There has been people that didn't respect the chart. They sold a long time ago and we just bought out the tokens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying it's interesting, like PulseChain's at a triple bottom, and it's almost like pTGC's at a triple bottom. But it's up at a $53 million market cap, right? It's up 120x whatever from the launch, right? So pTGC's at a triple bottom up 120x. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a similar, you don't see it in the chart, but it's almost kind of like a similar thing to Hex. Or I guess if you looked at eHex, obviously the retracement is a lot bigger than what pTGC, but eHex's move up was very, very extreme. They obviously had ETH go on a nice run, so they had a nice X multiplier there, and they had tons of demand flowing in for that few months period. But you can kind of see those floors hitting on eHex, or if you just move the chart over to pHex and look at that dollar figure, there's people within there that's up decent amounts of X's, but they seem to think that these, 205 is like the lowest that, it seems to go. And it's capped it multiple times. Any questions on YouTube, Banana?
There are no questions on YouTube. Backwards Hat Dad jumped in to say hello. Hi, Backwards Hat Dad. He's the gentleman that makes the music for us, if you guys didn't know.
Hey, gentlemen, how we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, Zen. Just happy to be here. I don't really hop on the spaces much. I'm a week one holder, holding strong. I de-risked a little bit when the whole PDI thing was going on, but I just started averaging back in recently. I didn't sell everything. I just sold a little bit. But yeah, I want to change that. I feel like, we're getting really, really close for it to be go time. And I know we've been saying that for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. But I feel like, the sentiment around the chain has been so low, especially now, for good reasons, I think. But I do think things are looking really good. The DAO's got a ton of PLS. I'm looking forward to what gets done with that. And I think it's time for the community to get loud. I know everyone's kind of gone quiet and everyone's just kind of looking around the room, but I think it's go time. So I'm excited. I wanted to bring something up. I know there's been a lot of chat around stimulus checks and stuff like that. Once we get clarity around that, whether it's going to be like a tax break or they're actually going to be stimulus checks, I think it'd be cool to see what we can do in terms of like a moon math experiment. Whether you guys decide to do, what if half of the holders put in the stimulus check, or just throwing crazy numbers out there. I think that'd be fun to see.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great experience. It's fun to use, numbers that we can relate to. I've been kind of playing with one recently where I talk about like, hey, what if half of our stakers just onboarded one person of $5,000? What does this do for the growth of pTGC? And I appreciate you coming in, just, saying, hey, I de-risked a little bit, I left, and I see that there's new opportunity here, and I think it's go time. So I've been kind of DCAing back in, which is just awesome. And, that you kind of mentioned that you're kind of ready to kind of get to work and get loud. I agree. I think it's go time. I think if there was a time to expose people to pTGC, a great asset here on PulseChain, I think we're at it right now. We're at like a good bottom on the chart for both PulseChain and pTGC. Every time this has happened before, it's been a great opportunity to DCA in or get your first bags. And also for in real life people, this is one thing that I've been like really, really pushing on, because I think this would be one of the things that just makes pTGC so much different than a lot of assets communities that exist, is having an army of in real life users that have been onboarded from the already existing community, if that's just one or if that's 5 users. We are still at these low levels of PulseChain, PLS at like 403. So we have time to do it. You know, we can pick up the phone, we can start the conversation, we can kind of start talking to people here and there and just see if they're interested to being exposed to DeFi. And, you know, I think there is a lot of people out there that are willing to expose themselves at least with $1,000. And I truly don't believe there's a better asset on chain risk to reward than pTGC. The machine's proven itself. It's had about everything you could imagine thrown at it, and it's still sitting at one of the highest market caps of pretty much everything on chain. You know, besides like fudged up market caps, minting a ton of supply and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's time. Our community alone, we have a large community, and if everyone kind of just tried to put in a little bit of effort here, I think we could cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time.
100%. I think me personally, I see that a lot of people kind of look, especially in PulseChain, we look around to wait for, you know, bigger names and influencers to kind of like get bullish behind something, or they just kind of rally behind the person. But when you think about investors from the outside looking in, they're not looking at influencers to see whether or not they are going to get into a project or a protocol. They're looking at the smaller accounts. They're looking those are the community members that, you know, if you have big money, you can look and say, okay, there's something here. It's not just a big account. You know, when I see a big account sharing something, I just fade it completely because I'm just, you know, thinking I'm going to be exit liquidity. So I can only imagine other people feel the same way when you see the little guys working for their bags. And when I say little guys, I don't mean, you know, you have small bags. I mean, you just have a lower amount of followers. Those are, funny enough, the accounts that have the biggest alpha. So just something to take into consideration.
Yeah, people who are actually talking about the things that they like and that they hold and that they have skin in the game with and are banking on succeeding for, you know, their own family long term if they believe in it. A lot of the larger accounts, you know, especially on a lot of the other blockchains, most of those accounts are just getting paid to say a comment about a token here or there. They don't even own it, or they got given a little bit here or there. That's one reason I think pTGC really stands out is, you know, it's known that we have a very large holder base here on chain. A lot of people know of pTGC, if not pretty much everyone that's active knows of it. And I think it's a great time for us to tap into that community and everyone kind of just put in a little bit of legwork right now. And if we can put in that legwork, I truly do believe that the code's going to do the rest of the heavy lifting for us. Like, I do believe the product is that good.
Yeah, I agree. You know, back to the whole thing with the stimulus. I just pulled up the chart and it looks like Hex did a 1000x within months of those going out. Obviously, we were in like hyper printing mode. You know, at that time. But just some food for thought. 1000x in, you know, a few short months is no joke. And it looks like we just got news that the Senate passes the bill to reopen the U.S. government. So another metric that you can line up to a Bitcoin chart and see what happened after.
Yeah, we're not, you know, I think it's a pretty quiet night. If you want, we could play around with a few numbers right now just for fun, you know, maybe based off the last stimulus check, or we could just make up a number. I don't think many people have questions right now.
I'm ready I'm ready with the moon math calculator if you want to run some numbers.
I was going to say that. I feel like Perry's got something up already.
Yeah. I didn't even get a stimulus check last year. So what was that? Roughly $2,000? Not last year, 4 or 5 years ago.
From what I understand, the stimulus check that they're talking about is $2,000. And it could be a credit toward your taxes or a check in the mail. I have no idea.
But let's just play with the $2,000 just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I like to use both PulseChain and pTGC. Right now, I think there's roughly 10,000 active users on PulseChain. You know, let's pretend each one of those people brought in $2,000 for MoonMap 2.0 in the PulseChain PLS.
$10,000 people bringing $2,000
in the PulseChain, in the PLS.
Yeah. $20 million. Okay, $20 million of buy pressure on PLS. Let's calculate the impact of on the price. 15x. We can all stop pointing our fingers at Richard Hart to pump the chain, and everybody can participate and pump the chain ourselves. That'd send the price to 3045. Just $20 million.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing about this chain being so illiquid. It's so easy to get going if not just the pTGC community, but the entire PulseChain community did a little bit of onboarding. And I get that everyone already has, and everyone's, tired or tapped into some resources. I do think sometimes you have to just keep pushing through and, give it one last, good effort at the end to finish what you've started. So that was a great example for PulseChain. So that's 15x there. Let's say, should we use half of the stakers within pTGC, 1,500 people?
Yep. Yep.
I think that's pretty fair.
$2,000 each.
Yeah, do $2,000 each.
Okay, I got to get on the correct calculator here. So is that 7,500 people? 7,500 times 2,000? Does that sound right? Or have I got that?
No, I was doing half the stakers. So I think we have 3,000 stakers.
Okay.
So do 1,500.
There we go. 1,500 times 2,000. That'll be $3 million in buy pressure on pTGC. That's going to be more than 15x. No, it's not. It's 6x. $3 million in buy pressure on pTGC.
On pTGC.
Yep,
Yes,
this is 6x.
Right.
Okay.
So we got a 15x on PulseChain and 6x on pTGC. Let's type that into the X multiplier and see what, this very low ball example, this doesn't include anyone bringing anything extra in. This doesn't include onboarding. Green candles bring in more green candles. This is just, this small stimulus check example.
Yep.
Very modest in my opinion, but I think fun.
Okay, so just to double check, this is pTGC, 6x on pTGC and 15x on PLS.
Yeah.
All right. Calculate 90x.
So 90x for pTGC users.
1.6 pennies. 1.6 pennies per pTGC.
Yeah, I think that would for sure, depending on what the rest of the market does at that time, but I think that would get pTGC close to the top 50 of all cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good example of how easy it is to actually get a 90x here in the pTGC system working off of reflexivity. That doesn't include the value that we're generating. Reflexivity is such a powerful tool, being built on an undervalued blockchain with a product that's actually sustainable. A lot of people, I never even heard of pretty much anyone talking about X multiplier reflexivity, because most products don't get to truly experience it, because most products aren't sustainable. So when you're in an environment where 99.5% of the things around you aren't sustainable or just end up failing because of many different reasons, bad actors, bad community, so on and so forth. It's not always a dev's fault. It's not always a community's fault. It's not always a code's fault. But for the most part, majority of things fails. It's hard to notice the reflexivity because of so much human interaction involved, right? But I actually believe pTGC has shown a lot of people how powerful reflexivity is because of the sustainability, its buy-in birds, etc. Every time PulseChain has moved up just a little bit, we've seen that reflexivity kick in very, very hard. And that's due to value actually coming into the chain. PulseChain doesn't move up without value coming into the chain. And it's a very low chance that value flows into the chain and only buys RH tokens. We've seen that a lot of people come to PulseChain not just for RH tokens. Yes, do they put money there as well? 100%. They want to be exposed to RH tokens, but a portion of their portfolio also wants to be exposed to great sustainable alt tokens on the chain as well. And that's the reflexivity, because we're getting the gains of PulseChain or anything that we're bonded to. Those users could go into Hex, they could go into PulseX, they can go into MOST, they can go into anything in our liquidity pair. And it's helping increase the value of pTGC. But if anything trickles into pTGC as well, a net positive amount of value, we're getting that reflexivity effect.
Yeah.
And every time there's been a decent amount of value flowing into PulseChain, it's been quite easy for pTGC to do a decent amount of X's.
Yeah, man. I remember the last time we got stimulus checks, which was my first time ever getting a stimulus check. I was like, I felt like I had this check in my hand. I was like, I feel guilty for even cashing this thing. But I did. But that was, I think that was in 2020 during COVID. And I remember somebody highlighting, if a person had taken their stimulus check and put it into such and such and such crypto assets, what they would be worth at the top of the cycle. And it was astounding. It was like, you take your $2,000 stimulus check and turn it into like over $50,000 or something like that in a matter of several months. I was shocked, man.
Banana, you can actually look at that stat on a website. It's bitcoinstimulus.net. $1,200 stimulus is now worth 19.1K at today's value.
Whoa. And what's the URL again? Bitcoin
Stimulus, STIMULUS.net.
Cool. I'm looking that up right now.
So, you know how I mentioned Hex did 1,000x? With Hex, that would have been 1.2 million at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. We bought what do you call it? A hot tub around that time. And after we got the hot tub, I discovered Hex, and I was doing the math in my head, sitting in my hot tub, adding up how much of a hot tub I was sitting in. I was like, oh man, wish I hadn't bought the hot tub, bought Hex instead. That was a stinking expensive hot tub, boy.
Well, maybe you could sell the hot tub now and get all that Hex that you missed out on. Hex is on a pretty good discount.
Yipper.
I could see those numbers happening with pTGC. I mean, if we get a 100x on Pulse from these levels and, you know, a 10x multiplier on top of that, there's your 1000x.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that, you know, when people talk about all these numbers, it sounds all crazy. But the interesting thing is it's the norm. The only thing that pTGC needs to go into the billions of market cap very easily is for PulseChain to do something.
Yeah, some new value flowing into PulseChain, I think would be really nice for pTGC. Really any asset, right? Just PulseChain in general, Hex in general, PulseX in general. But that does start with us, you know, and I think that's why us as a large community on chain, you know, we can onboard to this chain. I think pTGC is a great place to onboard if you are to onboard to something on this chain. It's been proven to treat people's value with a form of respect that a lot of other assets don't. And we can kind of start that run here. And the start of a run kind of brings in more energy and brings in more value and will help make PulseChain that successful blockchain that we know it should be. It does start with the community. It starts with onboarding. Obviously, I don't think we need to take all the blame. I think part of the problem is there's been a lot of value passed out and not the value that was sacrificed or given for that value put back in. It's just not a sustainable model, in my opinion. The value at some point does need to come back that people put in, even if it was just given up. Or time needs to go by, right? Time needs to go by and people need to sell at a loss and new users need to come in. And at least those new users are putting that value right into the liquidity web. So it's either or, but we're working in that right direction. And specifically with pTGC, as we were just talking about, you know, a 10x, if we can get pTGC to do a 10x, that's, gosh, probably only $5-6 million needed. Banana, I'm sure you could play around with a few numbers and get us pretty close. How much it would cost for pTGC to do a 10x over PulseChain. Because a 10x over PulseChain, then you just have to ask yourself, well, what does PulseChain do in the future? Does PulseChain do a 10x? Well, if you're a pTGC holder, you just did 100x in a hyper-deflationary asset that pays you APY and has enough liquidity to actually support that 100x. Or, you know, maybe PulseChain does 100x. Well, if in pTGC we did a 10x at the beginning against PulseChain, just like we were just talking about, that's 1,000x.
$4.5 million of my price run. Yep.
That's it.
That's our 10x. Only $4.5 million.
Yeah, I think the chain needs to be more liquid before it can do that, though.
It will become more liquid. Are you saying before pTGC can do that, or before?
Well, you're basing it off of 100x of PulseChain or some large multiple x of PulseChain itself, right? But for that to happen, that means that X amount of millions and millions of dollars has to pour into the chain.
Yeah, and naturally that will make it more liquid. These new users will come in and push that ETH into the liquidity pools or that USDC or whatever. And, you know, a lot of people will be exposed to Richard's farms, and people like farming and earning APY off of the assets that they hold in their wallets, and stuff like that. So I do think the chain will naturally become more liquid as we bring more players in. Right? Like it is partially the reason it is so illiquid is because the price is literally being drained down to, you know, a third of sacrifice price. Like it's been just getting drained constantly. And it obviously didn't help that the APY was dropped on the farming for sure. Like I 100% agree. But
well, that's the big thing.
Yeah. But I do think, obviously the price of PLS going up only comes with liquidity flowing in. Price doesn't go up without value actually coming over that bridge and putting that value inside the liquidity pool. But you are right. Big players don't want to push the price up for themselves. The environment we have right now is a fish tank. No whale wants to live in a fish tank where their movement creates the water flowing over the top, raises the water level times 10. Like, no one wants to do that stuff.
Well, yeah, like literally, like $1 million isn't even that a lot of money. And if I want to bring in $1 million from ETH into PulseChain right now, I'm going to pay $280,000 to push the button in one go. So, as a whale, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So now I have to do 50 microtransactions, and it just makes it feel unfavorable for me.
Well, even the microtransactions, if no one's selling as you're buying in, and if there's no like pairs that need to be fixed, which if you're using the auto router, then there is none, that you're still getting that slippage. You're just getting it throughout 50 transactions. It's not actually giving you a better deal. So yes, for a big player to come in, they're gonna, either way, small transactions or big transactions, they're gonna push the price up that amount against themselves. And I 100% agree. The environment on PulseChain right now is not favorable for big players. It's literally like we're a fish tank and we're asking, a whale to come in this fish tank. And they're like, dude, I don't fit in there.
It's literally like the big fat guy that jumps off your roof into your pool.
Yeah, it's a fat guy getting in a filled up bathtub. All the water just goes on the floor. He's like, I don't fit in this thing. But I think what that turns into is, hey, like, let's get some smaller in real life people in right now. Let's turn the active user base from 10,000. Maybe these users aren't active, but let's increase the user base by another 10,000. And maybe that user base to where we can at least start attracting maybe not $1 million entry buys, but maybe we're at least at the 500K at that point. We're a 500K person because you know what? I can do 5% slippage. I'm cool with that. And then when a few of those guys come in, then we can start attracting the million. It's like almost the same story as pTGC, right? When pTGC first launched, people were making $1,000 purchases, right? Because the liquidity was small, it was brand new. And then those kept onboarding. And then next thing you know, you're to the next level. And you can start onboarding $5,000 people. And then you get to the next level as you grow. And then you can start onboarding $10,000 people. And then next thing you know, we were, close to our all-time high. We're able to actually onboard larger players because our environment is actually favorable and sustainable for them. And we almost need to look at PulseChain as that same way because PulseChain is so illiquid as a blockchain. We have to start with the smaller players, the in real life onboards. Hey, just come in with $5,000. That's cool. 10,000, 20,000. And then as we get it to back the stack price, let's say, well, the liquidity is going to be a lot better then. Well, now we can start onboarding 100K people, 200K people, and the chart will start looking better now too, which those 100, 200K people are going to feel more confident. And then, if we can push past all-time highs, next thing we know, $1 million buys are going to, or bridges are going to start hopping over because the chart looks great, environment looks great, and we now have the liquidity to support these bigger players as well.
Zen, I just thought of something on Richard's post. It's almost as if he is asking how to solve the problem of the bonuses in a sacrifice set.
Explain if you can. I didn't fully understand.
Okay, so imagine he's talking in the context of asking, how do I solve the problem that I have 10 million coins that I want to sell for $1 each, and the guy that wants to buy them wants a better deal than that because he's buying a whole bunch of them. So this is the guy in the sacrifice set that is putting in, $10 million in the sacrifice set, but he wants the bonuses because why in the hell would I buy that much and pay the same as everybody else? Right?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm understanding it. I was just talking to myself for a second.
So he says, thought experiment. Someone tries to sell you something that trades $1 for $1. So let's just say that this is the sacrifice set, right? And he's trying to sell prove X to somebody. But he, in this situation, it would be the OA, wants to sell 10 million of them. Okay, well, you'd want a good deal if you were to buy 10 million of something instead of 1 for 1, I bet. So in this situation, he's saying the whale that wants to enter the sacrifice set wants a better deal because he's buying a whole shit ton of them. This is just what I'm thinking. Then you check the market and you see that if you had to resell the thing, you'd only get 2.4 million for the 10 million of a thing. And that's because the way that the LPs are set up, there's no freaking way you're going to dump $10 million worth of tokens into an LP the way that they're set up on PulseChain. In that case, it seems like it'd be fair to pay the 2.5 million for the 10 million things and not the 10 million. Why would you pay someone more for something they'd sell to you for less? How do you value something people want to sell you more of than you want, and you can't possibly sell as much as they want to sell you? He's literally pondering. It's a pondering emoji. It's like he's sitting there going, "How do I?" I don't know, man. It feels to me like he's trying to solve the bonus issue.
Yeah, because why would someone sacrifice a large amount if they're not getting a legit bonus? Because the amount of tokens that they receive, if it was 1-to-1 with no bonus, even at launch price, they could never even sell those on the market anyways.
100%. So how do you value something people want to sell you? So in this case, it would be Richard wanting to sell a whale something. How do you value something people want to sell you more of than you want? And you can't possibly sell as much as they want to sell you. This is interesting. Yeah, see, Access Alive. Market depth and slippage should definitely be considerations when accepting payments. Being able to quickly calculate the maximum extractable value of something ensures the buyer or seller is getting a good deal based on current market conditions. Rewarding people who support something they are selling should also be considered. For example, if someone wants to sell $500,000 of something they are supporting with $1 million, think liquidity pools, exactly what I said. Should they get more for the thing they are buying in the event that the counterparty decides to sell into their support? So yeah, so this is the issue that they're looking at. See, the issue is you don't want to over bonus someone and just cause forever downward pressure because they're so far ahead of the curve of the valuation that they can sell it at a profit for way less than everybody else. But at the same time, you got to incentivize a guy to drop that kind of a bucket, and knowing that he's going to trap himself in a liquidity pool as a whale, which is the exact problem that we just discussed. So now he's a whale swimming in a pool instead of an ocean, right?
100%. It's probably the reason why sacrifices and, early investor situations where you're taking in lump sums of value and then distributing out tokens associated and only putting a fraction of that value in the liquidity. Because if you're taking in value, but that value actually doesn't go to the product, there's an imbalance there. And that imbalance can only be corrected by the value that was put in being used for that product. If it's slowly put in, if it's put in liquidity, obviously no one wants to put $10 million into something if they're not getting something positive out in return. Why would you do that? You should just put that value in something that does give you something positive in return. So you also have to offer them an incentive to be in your system. But then by giving them the incentive of additional tokens, like we were talking about, you now are creating the situation where they get a way cheaper price than everyone else, and they can sell at a profit before every single other person, which they should be able to, because they're now a whale in a fish tank. And it's just a hard problem to solve.
But normally, like in a VC situation, right, you'll get the bonuses, but they won't come at you all at once. You'll get distribution over years.
Time delays. There's time delays
100%.
to when you can access that stuff. Yep.
Because
you get the bonuses, you get the better deal, but you can't access your tokens until later on. Everyone else can that buys at market price.
I mean, to be honest, that's the only way that you can incentivize without giving them the power to just completely nuke the chart infinitum, because they're at such a nice profit. They front run the profit. And that's what we've seen already with the Pulse and PulseX sacrifices, is that the people who put in the most money, they're just literally dumping at such low levels because they can, and they're still in profit. So you don't want to create it. You don't want to create that environment anymore.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and I see both sides of it, right? Because if you want to incentivize large investors, you have to give them an incentive, because they're coming into a crypto situation where usually there's not enough liquidity for them to even take their money out. So they're in a very illiquid environment. So what they want in exchange is additional tokens. But then what that creates is the cost basis being so much lower for that user, to where every time the asset goes into a range that's profitable for them, but not profitable for the rest of the community, they usually take some of the value off the table because they put so much value on the table from the start.
Yeah, to me, you gotta put it in a smart contract. You gotta put it in an escrow account, and it unlocks a certain amount every year.
Yeah, and putting that value that was invested into the system is very important, in my opinion. It doesn't have to happen right away. It can be used to go up in value in other assets, and then portions of it trickle in. But in my opinion, it isn't a formula for success unless somewhat even or close to half of even or whatever amounts actually go back into the product that people put money up for, or it's just all sell pressure and no buy pressure. Because if you give everyone the product, but none of the value they put in actually went to the product, all you have is thousands of people of sell pressure forever.
Yeah, it's interesting. That last question he's asking is an interesting one.
And anything you got on YouTube, Banana?
Nope. It's been a pretty active evening, but it's been quiet for the last little bit.
What's up, Captain? I see Captain in here. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing good. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I don't really have much else, Mando. Great day.
I mean, we could keep on going. Like my head right now, I know how these things go, and there's probably 10 different things I'm thinking about right now, man, in terms of the game theory and the way that this is going to go, and the different ways you can make money through all of this, and how and the why, and what impact is this going to have on that. So it's going to be very interesting. We've talked in depth about it. But as soon as that website comes out, man, it's going to be, there'll be a little pieces to the puzzle for us. So.
Yeah, definitely. We have very little of the image right now, and we're trying to guess it. We need some more, more pieces of that to get the image, and that's going to help us make decisions. pTGC is a very unique product because it actually has the ability to make decisions. That's the power of the DAO, of us being able to constantly pivot and be able to make, moves not only today, tomorrow, but years from now. This is another great example of PulseChain kind of taking a turn in a different direction that a lot of people didn't see coming, and us being able to, with the DAO, still being decentralized, still being automated, but also have some fluidity to the product to make moves for the protocol so we can grow with the ever-changing landscape of cryptocurrency. And this is one example. Pump.tires was another example that a lot of people didn't see coming. And I bet you there will be hundreds of more of these examples throughout the lifespan of PulseChain. And that's what I think really makes pTGC different than a lot of products out there. Is it is decentralized code, it's automated code, but it also has the ability to pivot in a decentralized way with the ever-changing environment around it. And again, we can't even make any decisions right now because we don't even have all the pieces. We just brought up tons of great information on what this sacrifice could look like and the pros and cons of amplifications, but why amplifications are kind of needed if you want to bring in large amounts of money. If you don't care about bringing in large amounts of money, amplifications aren't really needed. But why even take a sacrifice at that point then, unless you're just trying to create a very well-distributed supply? That would be my opinion is, hey, if you don't give an amplification, most people will not put in that much, but you're actually giving the chance for the whole entire PulseChain community to at least all put in a little bit. Right? So then you have a network of people, tens of thousands, all getting the exact same price for an asset that they're all a community of. And I think that's kind of awesome in a way, right? Having a well-distributed supply of everyone at a fair point, and then they can push the price up as a community with not other people getting better rates. But if you're in it for, getting in as much money as possible and you don't care so much about the price, obviously giving that amplification can help you bring in value. But then those users want a discount because they're a big player in an illiquid environment.
Yeah. Benjamin, just switching gears real quick before we get off. Benjamin Cohen posted today about Bitcoin managing to close above the 50-week SMA. And that's good because we needed a close above that.
Yeah, we did.
And so that's bullish. Also, the Bitcoin dominance went from 60 to 57.5. So Bitcoin dominance is breaking down while it's still on its uptrend. It didn't break the SMA down. So that's very good. I mean, in terms of, we're at currently 107,000 Bitcoin and 3629 ETH. A couple weeks ago, or not even a couple weeks ago now. What was it? Let's see here. Go to my page here real quick. We in other words, we wanted to see this because the last thing you want to see is a massive breaking down. So 5 days ago, I wrote, watch for another test of the Bitcoin price in the next couple of days. The recent move down was like an earthquake. People are still shaken up a bit. Some were smart enough not to sell are still on edge and may capitulate some on any smaller tremor of the market, triggering another short sell-off. In my opinion, this would only be bought back up swiftly to then continue into an uptrend. Don't get shaken out by any tremors in the coming days. And that was 5 days ago. And Bitcoin just ticked over 107 just right now. And it barely tapped the SMA and went straight back up. It didn't like being down there. So hopefully we continue this. And what this means to me is that we're going to go into an uptrend into the end of the year. That's what everything to me feels like and looks like. And that's what we want, right? So I'm encouraged by that. I think that Lee, the other day, he was in an interview as well, and he was going over their metrics, and he was talking about kind of some of the same stuff that we were talking about, rate cuts, getting past this government hump, stimulus packages, and looking at 150 to 200 Bitcoin and potentially 7,000 to 8,000 ETH. And that guy's got I don't know what it is, like $3 billion or something dollars in there. So let's just keep this positive energy for Bitcoin. But it's nice to see the breakdown of the dominance go pretty quickly under 60, 57 now, which means that if it keeps breaking down, hopefully that indicates a nice altcoin season, which we've been waiting for. And obviously everything has been delayed. Just absolutely everything, so interesting. There's so many things converging on everybody all at once. And then we got Richard doing his thing. And, now we got this sacrifice thing. It's like, Lord, when does it end? But anyway, that's all I got, man. And I got to get out of here. I got to go hang out with my boy for a little bit. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'm ready to shut it down. Thanks for coming in, Mando, and talking with us.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right.
See you, Ferry.
See you, Mando.
You got anything on YouTube, Banana, before we go?
Nope. Sure don't. We'll see you on Spaces, not Spaces, but in Telegram tomorrow.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions and kind of wants more of a one-on-one conversation, we have private Telegrams on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I kind of just go over some of the stats, and then we usually talk, a few of us, just about PulseChain, pTGC, UFO in general. The VC is for questions for people who need help. So if you do have any questions, feel free to hop in there and ask them.
Yep.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's call it a day. We've been going for 2 hours. And we'll see you guys soon.
Okay. See you then.
All right, bye.
That's it. So, not Spaces. Telegram voice chat is at 3 p.m. Pacific on Tuesdays. And yeah, jump in, guys. I mean, if you haven't been on one of the voice chats, it's just the founder mostly. Sometimes other guys will jump in there, but it's a totally different environment. And a lot of guys have asked, like, is it recorded? No, it's not. It's more intimate for people that don't want to come onto a Twitter space. But yeah, it's good. I'm only on there briefly just because of my schedule. But yeah, it was a good space tonight. Bitcoin pushed over 100 grand, 107 grand. Yay. So yeah, man. Hopefully things get moving here soon. But we're always saying that. But the every day that passes, the closer we get. I will stand on that. All right, guys. Have a good night. See y'all later.